Hello everyone, welcome. This is the Stamina Sorcerer PvE DPS build for Dragonbones. I'm going to go over the skills, the gear, the rotation, and the champion points you should use to best succeed with the Stam Stork in this patch. Now, Stam Storks compared to other stamina setups have a bit more AoE. They have the traditional Endless Hail Caltrops that every Stam setup has, but they also have Hurricane and a little bit of AoE with Shrouded Daggers. It can bounce up to 2 times, doing additional damage. It's actually pretty decent for AoE. It's got some nice cleave. Hurricane, as you can see, has a wide radius for hitting this dummy from here. The AoE is pretty big. Most stamina setups are very single target focused, and while Stam Stork still does do pretty high single target damage, it is better than the others at AoE. However, it does trade off a little bit of single target compared to the others, but it's not too big a deal, and I'll show you why. Okay, so first of all, the gear. You may be tired of hearing about mechanical acuity this patch, but it really is the best setup for practically everything. I will say this though, on a Stam Stork it kind of varies. Often in trials groups you see maybe 1, at most 2 of this spec in a trial group, and often they are wearing Nightmother's Gaze or Sunder Flame, or both. If you already have this as provided for you by other teammates, etc., run Mechanical Acuity. It does beat Hundings, it beats Automaton, it is quite strong. However, the thing is, I would honestly recommend running Nightmother's Gaze in a group. Nightmother's is especially good on a Stam Stork. Hurricane reapplies it very easily, so you don't have to worry about it too much. It's probably the best class to utilize that set out of all the Stam setups, so it is probably better to use that. But once again, if that set's provided for you already, you can run Mechanical Acuity. The other set, Two-Fanged Snake. This is important solo. Like, you pretty much have to wear this solo because Stam Stork, however, does not have any pen. Unlike Stamina Nightblade, Stamina Warden, Stamina DK, and even Templar to a degree, it has no way to apply Fracture, either major or minor. So you really need this penetration alone. If you don't have this, you are going to be hitting for significantly less damage by yourself. In a trial scenario, if you wanted to run Acuity still, you could run Sunder or Nightmothers here. That works too. But this is pretty much a necessity solo, or else your DPS will suffer greatly. You could also run Vicious Ophidian here if your sustain is kind of an issue, and you're not running buff sets. There is really, truly a lot of combinations for Stam Storks to wear. This is just the highest single target setup alone. Keep that in mind. We're using the Maelstrom's bow just like every Stam setup. If you have the Masters, you can use that too. Damage held by X. Once again, this is stronger with a Nirnhorn bow than Infused plus Weapon Enchant or Infused Crusher. This still does more damage. Use this. In terms of skills, Rending Slashes. This is the bread and butter dot for most stamina setups. Keep this up. Hurricane, very strong. It also gives us a big buff to our resistances. That is our resistances as a Stamina DD. We're actually a lot less squishy than most other stamina setups, which is nice. As you can see, our spell and physical resistance is very high. Couple that with armaments and Deadly Cloak, and it's a little hard to kill us. You don't even necessarily need Crit Surge in a trial scenario. You can just run armaments, Hurricane, and Deadly Cloak. A lot of mitigation, not too squishy. Shrouded Daggers. This is our single target spammable, quote unquote. It's also nice for AoE. As you can see, it can bounce up to 2 times and deal a lot of damage. It gives you Major Brutality if you don't really feel like running potions. You could run just the crit potions, that could work. Deadly Cloak. Again, AoE, nice damage. The mitigation is the best part about it though. We take 25% less from area of effect attacks, like in Starfall, VHRC, and just in general, there's quite a few AoE attacks in this game that are quite strong. Bound Armaments. It's nice for the physical resistance, but we mostly use this for its secondary bonus. 8% more max stam, and our heavy attacks do 11% more damage. Next patch, this will be changed to light attack. That may sound like a huge nerf, but it's actually not a big deal. The rotation I'm going to show you is actually mostly light attack. You still gain more damage from doing more light attacks than heavy attacks. That's always been the case because light attacks are faster once you get to your dots quicker, and you can weave them more easily. We can still have to do one or two heavy attacks to sustain though, but in the end, it's not really a huge nerf. It will just trade rolls from heavy attack rotation to light attack rotation next patch. It's not the biggest deal. Flawless Dawnbreaker. Nice AoE. We use this for its weapon damage though. 5% more. That's actually 8% more with Major Slayer. Or not Major Slayer, with the Slayer passive from Fighter's Guild. Our bow bar. Just like every other Stam setup, we have pretty much the same hail, injection, rearming trap, caltrops. These are your bread and butter for every stamina class. Straw dots. This is more execute. This is your most powerful ability. Need this for minor force. This is a nice AoE dot as well. We have to double slot armaments because it's a toggle. If you have it on just one bar, it won't work. You need to have it on both. Ballista. Now, this will give you slightly more single target damage. I actually think this is better in general. It might sound weird, but now that it scales off of your max resource, it's actually still nice on a Stam Stork as well. And the synergy for your allies is really nice, especially because Stam Stork is kind of in the role as a buff for the group, either by running sets or through this. You can give someone like a Stamina Nightblade or a Stamina DK 25% more damage for 8 seconds. It's a very strong synergy. The damage is a little bit less. It's very slightly less than Ballista. I would recommend using this in a trial scenario, though. Champion points. Green Tree, we have Tenacity and Mooncalf. If you want more heavy attack build, you could run a little bit more here and a little less here, but I think light attack is better. That's just my playstyle, though. I like to do light attacks on almost everything, so it's up to you. Warlord is a priority. Shadow Ward, and Tumbling. Distribute those as you want. I don't put them in these videos because I don't want to suggest that there's a best way to do it. There's all kinds of combos. Same with the red tree. There is not necessarily a best setup. Adjust these three and these two to your needs. It's up to you. I'm going to show you the rotation pretty quickly. It's a pretty easy rotation, but it's kind of fast paced. You don't want to let your dots fall off too much, but it's not too bad. Start the fight by putting your buffs up, drink a potion, endless hail, rearming trap, poison injection, Caltrops-Barswap. Heavy attack, rending slashes, light attack, Shrouded daggers, 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 deadly cloak, hurricane, repeat. It's actually not too difficult, and it's pretty static. This is one of those classes that doesn't really benefit from a dynamic rotation too much, but if you wanted to run full dynamic, you don't have to necessarily run Hurricane or reapply Hurricane every time. You could probably squeeze in not letting these dots fall off and trying to get Hurricane whenever it's ready to fall off. The longer you let Hurricane go, the more damage it will do. That's part of the skill's ability. It does more damage the longer it gets. You want this to get to almost 0. 1 second is probably a good time to reapply it because you don't want it to fall off. If you reapply this too early, let's say you reapply at like 8 seconds, you just lost a ton of damage. Try to let this fall off as much as possible. It also gets bigger the longer it lasts. That's important too. I'll go over the patient one more time very slowly. That was a little sped up. Keep in mind, the slower I show this, the more likely my dots will fall off, but just keep that in mind. That's not to show how the actual rotation would go, just to show you what skills to use in what order. Okay, so drink a potion, endless hail, rearming trap, poison injection, caltrops, ultimate if you have it, heavy attack, rending slashes, light attack, Shrouded daggers, light attack, Shrouded daggers, light attack, Shrouded daggers, light attack, deadly cloak, light attack, hurricane, repeat. Again, like I said, the dots fell off because I was showing that so slowly. To get the most damage, you want your dots to never fall off. If you do it quickly, your bow bar shouldn't fall off too much, if at all. At most 1 second for hail perhaps, but most of the time you'll have almost full dot uptime. I'm going to show you a combat metrics parse to show you where our damage comes from and why you might want to play around with the CP to your liking, and just to show you the damage potential and why it is what it is. So, okay, so this is the Stam Stork. 38.5 does seem kind of low, and it kind of is, but there's a few reasons for that. For one, we don't have major fracture. Stamina Nightblades, Stamina Warden, Stamina DK, and again Stamina Templar have some form of fracture. Templars is minor, the rest are major. Stamstork has no major fracture. If we had fracture applied, this would have broken 40k quite easily. So, keep that in mind. In a trial scenario, you're going to be doing a lot more damage than you think. And with just major fracture, we're pretty much on par with DK, Templar, Warden. We're still behind Nightblade though, but that's okay. The AoE is very high here. As you can see, Shrouded Daggers or single target was actually pretty strong, as was Hurricane. These are two AoEs. Actually, our most powerful things are AoEs and dots, which is why I'm going to show you what the blue tree is like. Blade Cloak, again, we don't really use it for the damage, it's just for the AoE mitigation. It's still decent DPS though. The poisons, they'll do about 14, about 1.4k. So, they're pretty important. Implosion, if you proc this is the execute from your Storm Calling passive. It's pretty strong. It can do some nice damage. We've got 7 hits there, and almost all of them were crits because of acuity. Now, acuity gave us an average crit of about 60%, which is pretty much what you'd expect. So that wasn't too unlucky with crits. It was pretty good. Normally, you can expect to hit from anywhere from like 37 to like 39 with this class. Again, with major fracture, it's going to be over 40. Okay, so onto the blue tree. Now, this is going to look a little different than most stamina setups in one major way. Thaumaturge is actually our highest because, like I said, our AoEs and our dots, which is the same thing, are our most powerful things. Shrouded Daggers is right after it, but this is still going to be the most beneficial for you. Hurricane, Caltrops, Bow, all of these are the most powerful damage source for Sorc. You'd prefer to have this over, say, Precise Strikes or Mighty. We still have these fairly high, but Thaumaturge, in my opinion, should be the highest. You can play around with this, though, if you want to. We have a little bit more into Piercing because we don't have major fracture. In a group scenario, like a trial, you could probably get this all the way down to 20 if you wanted to, but by yourself, you probably want at least 30. Master at Arms, mostly for Shrouded Daggers, a little bit of Raining Slashes. Still nice to have a good amount, though, so... Right, so that's basically it. Stamstork is a pretty strong spec. It's not the strongest, but it is solid. It's more survivable than most stamina setups, and there's another reason for that. This is probably the best to use solo out of all the stamina setups, because you can run Crit Surge, and you can run Vigor instead of Armaments. You can even do this in a trial scenario if you don't trust your healer too much, or if you don't want to perhaps waste money on potions. These are kind of, these potions are fairly expensive. As you can see, the Brutality requires 1 more reagent. We could just make weapon crit potions so we get stamina back in crit, and you can run Crit Surge. Keep in mind though, if you run this, you'll have more survivability because you get a passive heal. For example, if I put this down, every time we crit, I get healing, which is very nice, especially solo. But you're missing out on Bound Armament's added stamina, which is going to scale more for your abilities, and you're missing out on its heavy attack damage. So I don't think this is worth it in a trial scenario. Use this only in a very inexperienced group where you know the healing is going to be bad, or if you're solo. If you're solo, go ahead and use this. In Maelstrom, this is a lifesaver, as is this. So it's really just up to you. As a final note, for our buff food, I actually use Camera and Throne for a light attack rotation. However, you could also use this for a heavy attack rotation. It's up to you. Play around with it. I prefer Camera and Throne. Even with a heavy attack rotation, it's fairly hard to sustain with this. This is always going to be more sustained. It'll just be a little squishier. It's really just up to you. Overall, this is a fun class. It's pretty crazy. You get to run around the map really quickly, get some nice passive healing, and it does some nice AoE. It's not the strongest stamina setup, but it is up there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Give Stamstork a whirl. See you next time.